This is a recording for season 75 of the ukulele, for the seasons of the ukulele on the Ukulele Underground Forum. This song is Pale Green Things by the Mountain Goats. Lily asked that we record something talking about the song and why we chose it. This is the song that came to mind immediately for me as soon as I saw the theme posted. It's a great song by one of my favorite artists, the Mountain Goats, and this is the last track in John Darnell's album, The Sunset Tree, which is about his childhood in an abusive household and largely about his abusive stepfather and his descent into drugs and alcohol. John's descent, not his stepfather's. In that abusive environment. This is the last track on the album, and this is it's a very emotionally complicated song. Lily had said that this would be a light week compared to previous weeks, and this is a very quiet, a very dark, a very contemplative, a very difficult song. Difficult to think through, not terribly difficult to play. I wanted to read a couple of things from some websites that I found people discussing the meaning of this song. So I thought that a couple of quotes that I found were much better at explaining this than I thought I would be. So I'll post a link to these as well. One commentator says that all of these songs are about his abusive stepfather, bitterness, fear, rebelliousness, general damage to John's spirit. The commentator goes on to say, Pale Green Things is the same topic but a vastly different emotion. Anybody who has ever had an abusive, neglectful, or addicted parent will understand. Parents influence our lives more than any other person, and something about that relationship, as John puts it here, living Chinese finger trap, forces us to consider the results of this impact even long after the physical influence is gone. The Chinese finger traps, I don't know if this is just an American thing or something, but they're children's toys that they're a little tube that you stick your fingers in, and when you pull, it constricts the tube so you can't get your fingers out. So reading on here, for children of abuse, this is especially hard to swallow. In many ways, they bear physical and emotional scars of their abuse, and all they want is to feel loved by the abusive parent, even long after they've realized it's impossible. John built a life of his own after Mike Noonan, that's his stepfather, but the harder he pulled to get away, the more he couldn't forget what living under him was like. In December 2004, Noonan died, and the quote from the song, "At last, at last." And John got the phone call at 3 a.m. that simultaneously fulfilled his deepest, bitterest childhood wish, but also stimulated an instantaneous recall of one of the few good moments he had with him. The commentator then says, John's random memory of that pre-dawn morning at the racetrack with his stepson was the little tuft of pale green Indiana sawgrass peeking through the hard, broken asphalt of his stepfather's nature. It was literally the straw John's memory drew in that moment when his mind asked, sorry, that doesn't make sense. When his mind asked, my stepfather is dead, is there anything good I remember about him now? Another commentator adds, another thing that I thought was really nice about this, the choice of seaweed and sawgrass is less for their color and more for their binding, clinging, and somewhat harmful nature. Sawgrass will always hurt you, and seaweed can drag you beneath the water. I might add also about the lyrics that it's nice that it depicts the way that memory works at these moments, where it's like looking through a still shot of this one moment, and things are described in this very still, very quiet detail. Things that, of course, aren't themselves important, but these are the things that spring to mind. This is the memory that his mind presented to him at that moment. As long as I'm doing this, I'll make a couple notes about the arrangement. The way that John Darnielle does this is quite different from the way that I've done it. That's for a few reasons, mostly having to do with my lack of skill. I just can't play it the way that he does. I think also with the ukulele, with the sort of the bright and the more treble sound, even though I'm using a baritone here, it's still a lot brighter and a different sound than the guitar. And of course, doing this unaccompanied, I needed to change things around. I ended up just making up kind of a melody in the bridge. The bridge I just came up with, and in doing that and in changing some of the chords elsewhere too, I used a lot of the chords that John Darnielle uses, a lot of the suspended fourths and the ninth chords and the major seven chords. And I tried to make the arrangement very calm and quiet while maintaining a lot of tension in the harmony, maintaining a lot of discomfort even at this point of stillness. So that was, I tried to arrange this to fit the way that I read the song and its meaning. Yeah, okay, well, enough. I'll cut this off here. There'll be a sudden strange transition and then the song will start. Got up before dawn, went down to the racetrack, riding with the windows down. Shortly after your first heart attack, you parked behind the paddock, cracking asphalt underfoot, coming up through the cracks, pale green things, pale green things. We watched the horses run their workouts. You held your stopwatch in your left hand. And a racing form beneath your arm. Casting your gaze way out to no man's land. Sometimes I'll meet you out there, lonely and frightened, flicking my tongue out at the wet leaves, pale green things, pale green things. my sister called at 3 a.m. just last December. She told me how you died at last, at last. And that morning at the racetrack was one thing I remembered. I turned it over in my mind like a living Chinese finger trap. Seaweed in Indiana, so